Hey, and welcome to another one of the Tech Geeks videos. This is what do I need to run UNVR-Instant. This is Ubiquiti's UNVR network video recorder. And the Instant is an all-in-one. So in this one box, we have the ability to add in a hard drive. We can run Unifi Protect and Unifi Access, so we can do camera and we can do door access. We've got a PoE switch built in to be able to power our cameras. We've got an HDMI out, also called a Viewport. And we'll look at these a little bit better in a moment. They can be plugged directly into a monitor so that we've got an all-in-one. Maybe this is for your rental property. Maybe this is all you need for a small number of cameras at your property. Maybe you're putting this down at the shed. Wherever this works for you, it's a great all-in-one device. So the idea here is just to step you through all the components that you're going to need, how to configure them, how to get it all set up, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll be able to have a working system and know your way around it. So let's jump straight in. So let's just talk about the few bits and pieces that you're going to need. Obviously, you're going to need your UNVR-Instant. This is going to need to be connected to a router that you already have on your network. Maybe that's your internet service providers, or maybe you've just got something running Unifi network, so maybe something like a UCG Ultra or something like this. This does not do the routing or the network side of things, so you will need to connect this to a router. You're also going to need a hard drive. We're going to be using a Seagate hard drive here, but you can have, so that's a 3.5 inch, you can have SSD drives or standard 2.5 inch, and I'll show you how those fit in as well. But obviously your starting point is to know that this is going to need to fit on an already working network. All right, so what else do we need? We're going to jump into the unit in a moment, but you will need to have a Unifi account. So you want to head on over to unifi.ui.com and sign up if you've not already done that. That allows this unit to talk home and for you to be able to remotely manage it and ultimately use the app on your phone if you want to, or on a tablet or an Apple TV or anything like that to be able to view the content remotely or locally if you don't just plug a monitor directly into this, because you can view this without having the monitor there as well. All right, so those are the starting blocks. Remember, you are going to need a current router that's going to give out IP addresses, but let's now jump in and have a look at the unit itself. So an all-in-one, if we have a little look here, we've got our cooling fans or cooling vents around the side. At the front here, we have our LCD control screen that will just give us some readouts and know how this is going. Now this follows the same principle for a lot of these devices. By default it's set, I think, to turn off at about 10 o'clock at night and come on at about 8 o'clock in the morning. Many people think their unit is faulty because suddenly this screen goes off. So do remember in the settings, there is a setting in there and you can make that continually be on, but don't just be fooled. Just because it's gone off doesn't mean the unit has failed. Let's just turn this over and just wander through what we've got on here. So we've got our reset button over here, or a hole over here. We've got our 2-pin connector. You'll have a power cord that will have come for your area or your region to connect to that. We've got our HDMI output. Now this allows you to plug this directly into a monitor and view the devices there. But this is powered by Ubiquiti's Viewport, and this allows us to do some clever stuff of adding multiple cameras to it. It allows us to work out the screen shaping, how many we want to show at a time. So it's a little bit more versatile than just plugging in a monitor. Over here then we've got our 1 gig uplink that you're going to need to plug this up to your router or your current network. And then we've got our 6 PoE ports over here. Now, it's just key to remember these are 1 gig. Most of your cameras are not going to really give over about 25 megaseconds, so these are fast enough for that. These are just standard PoE, so these give up to 15 watts of power. This is not going to probably run some of the really, really big PTZ units like the AI Precision and the AI PTZ that Ubiquiti have, because they need 45 or more or so watts of power. These are designed for the G5 range and the standard G6 range. Overall, you've got a total of 40 watts of power. So you've got plenty to be able to spread across these, and say like a normal G5 bullet is probably only going to use about 5 watts of power. Now, just a conversation about this. This unit I think is designed for about 15 HD cameras, or cameras set to run in HD. I think it's like 8 2K cameras. So they're sort of your G5 range, and it's around about 6 4K cameras. So those are going to be your AI ready things like in the G6 range. So just be aware if this unit is designed for a simple, small setup. If you're going to have more cameras than that in due course, then you do want to think about moving up to slightly bigger equipment like the UNVR, the UNVR Pro, for instance, that can handle way more cameras. So that's a run through of this unit itself. Now let's have a look at the bottom. You can wall mount this. You can take these feet out and drill all the way through. I'll show you that in a moment. I'll just show you this little hole here. So we can take the bottom plate off and put our drive in, which we're going to do in a moment. And then when you're done, you basically do this screw up tight, so it means that the base of this does not come off. You also get a DIN rail mount if you have a DIN rail system, which is a small metal rail. Then there's a clip for there and allows you to then clip that into place as well. So let's have a look inside here. We're just going to push the bottom open like that. Like I said, this does need a hard drive. It takes a single hard drive. There's no defined maximum at the moment for this. If we take this along the same lines as many of the other Ubiquiti devices, I would expect you to be able to get a 20 terabyte hard drive or larger inside this. And we'll just walk you through. This is designed for a 3.5 inch drive, as you can see. There's no reason, and we will hopefully try these a little bit in the video just to check that they work. A 2.5 inch, for instance, we're just going to place that in and push that. Obviously, this is an SSD, so there's virtually no weight to it. So I just show you if it's in there, it's not going to really move around, although I might be tempted to just do a little bit of packing to try and help hold that in place, because there's nothing at this height here just to push down on it and hold it. This is a standard 2.5 inch hard drive, not an SSD. This is a lot heavier. Again, will probably work, but as you can see, there's a lot more movement, so I wouldn't want to hold that upside down because that's going to move around a little bit too much. So again, I would probably look at putting some packing on the top if you want to. But look, the main thing here is that we are trying to get the best performance speed. You're going to be reading and writing a lot of data, and you're expected to do this a lot. So really often still at the moment, 3.5 inch hard drives are the best for capacity. And you want to get something, if you can, of a 7,200 RPM spin speed, just so you've got that extra oomph for reading and writing. So what do? We're going to lift this lever up here, and we're going to insert our hard drive in. Just gives us the ability to have it back here a little bit more. Oops, and now I've got it stuck. There we go. So we need to be able to get that in to that spot there. So that is now pushed into place, and it's actually, because there were small pins down the side here, it's actually fairly well securely held. And we can now push this to just give us our clamp in place. As you can see, that just holds that in place. We can then take our tray bottom there. I'll just show you those holes though, just again. If you wanted to wall mount this, you can actually drill through here. A drilling guide is provided in the box, so you know where to drill. And that basically is your unit now built and ready to go. So part of our next step will be to power this up. I will test it, like I said, with these couple of other example hard drives that I've got, just to see that they are readable in there. So we're going to jump on and then power this up, and then we're going to start hopefully adding some of the cameras. Now, quite a lot of this is going to be done at the computer, so please do use the chapters of this YouTube to help find your way around. It will make life a little bit easier. All right, so our next stage is to obviously get this connected into our network and get it starting to power up. So the first thing we want to do obviously is get our connection to our router or our network switch that we're connecting this to. So let's just jump on over. We're going to be using our uplink port here, which is this one here. Let me just grab my green cable and plug that in. There we go. And I'm not going to do this with the HDMI port now. There's no real need to do that. That can be used later on. We don't have to even use that to access the device and get it going. All right, I'm going to now just get some mains power plugged in here, and this powered on there. And if I just then bring this round, hopefully where we can see there, the device is just starting to boot up, and we need to run that all the way through to it started. Once it's started, we're going to get an IP address. All right, and then that's going to allow us to start getting the configuration going for it. I can feel the hard drive starting up now. Okay, so I've just jumped on to the computer now, which is where we're going to do some more of the configuration. Now, there are a number of ways you can do this. You can download the Unifi Network app. and then it will connect using Bluetooth to get the initial configuration. I find it easier to use a web browser, and that's the way I'm going to walk this through. So what's the caveat for that? You need to have a computer that's on the same network segment, either via Ethernet or wireless, as your new UNVR-Instant. Remember, the UNVR-Instant isn't giving out IP addresses. Your router on your network is. So you'll see here, if we look on the front screen as it's booted up, and as long as it's got a connection to the network, you'll be able to find, there's about 3 screens through, and just wait for it to scroll. It will show you there the IP address that we need to connect to. So in this instance, we're just going to put this into a web browser. So 74, I think it was, wasn't it? Almost, but not quite right. It was 73. Just had to go back and check what it was currently showing for me. And you're going to get this basic initial log on screen. So at this point now, we're going to start walking through the process. What do we want to call this? So I'm going to call this Spinel. I like to just name this up so it's just easy to find. But again, you can choose whatever you would like this to be set as. So let's just go to the next stage. Now, if you've already got an account, a unifi.ui.com account, then you can put this here. Would be good to add in a local user as well. I'm just going to use our info at the Tech Geeks email address, which is our account, but we will go back and add in a user a bit later on as well. So that's the email. Actually, in fact, we don't need to create this account because we already have this account. We'll just have to see what this chooses to do on here. So I think it will tell us that we already have this account. Because, oh, actually, sorry, missing it down here. So there we go. You can use a sign-in option, or you can proceed without a UI account, and then you can make it just perfectly separate. Now, if you proceed without a UI account, you won't be able to remotely log into this, but at least it gives you a offline management solution if that's what you want. So I'm just going to choose sign in as our option here, and choose this. All right, just need to go and grab the password for that. 2 moments. Okay, so just hopefully be able to pop in the screen there. It's a bit faded out on my computer here, and sign in. Not sure if it's going to need the 6-digit sign in. Let's pop that in. All right, so obviously if we were restoring this from a backup, I'm presuming you might be able to bring this in from something else that was already on here. It's already gone to have a look at a few of the other ones that we've got listed in here. We're not going to restore it from a backup at all. So I don't want to restore anything. But interestingly enough, it wants to restore it from one of these. I'll continue without backup. So here we go. So obviously this could have come across from looks like a UDMSE or anywhere where there was config as well. Now this device will run Unifi Access as well as Unifi Protect. We're going to do a little bit of tests later on. We've got a few questions that people have around what you can ultimately do with this. I'm not going to manage this from unifi.ui.com. I'm just going to manage this locally. So we're logging in locally, not from unifi.ui.com, which I'll show you in a minute. This is its local IP address. You're going to get this certificate error. Don't worry, this doesn't mean it's insecure, it's compromised in any way. This is totally fine. You're on the local network. This does not have a paid certificate on it. So you're okay to choose advanced and then continue to be, it says unsafe, but you are totally safe. You are on a local network, and there is nothing to worry about on this. This is now going to go off by the looks of it and push this up to the latest firmware. So while that's pushing that up to the latest firmware, I'll just pause this video and then we'll return back to this in a few moments. Okay, so it has been going through the update. It's now gone to an error page, which I believe is probably because the device itself is rebooting. The device itself does seem to take about 3 or 4 minutes, I've noticed, to boot. So do allow it that little bit of time. Hopefully this will just give it a few moments and restart. So you'll just want to, if it doesn't auto reload this page, you'll just want to keep coming back and hitting refresh every now and again till we get our login screen. Once we have our login screen, obviously we'll better log back in again and we'll be able to continue on with some of the configuration. Okay, so the device refreshed, or the web page refreshed itself after it updated. So again, we're just going to log in here as the Tech Geeks. Let's just sign on in. It's again going to need that authenticator code. Let's just pop the current one in. Okay, so again, it says it's offline at the moment. I think that's probably because it is completely still updating. There we go, we're starting to get there. Okay, so this is our start in screen. Obviously you can follow it through, do all your learn more, because maybe you haven't ever done anything with this. I'm not gonna really worry about that. I really wanna just go to the dashboard and I want to get rid of this screen, although I'm not actually quite sure where I can get rid of this screen, because this is all that seems to be shown on the page. There we go. Let's try and see if we can get back to dashboard. Okay, so this is all that's on dashboard because you haven't really set anything up by the looks of it. So let me just pop my image over here, because we're going to start with some of our basic settings now. So we're just going to run through some of these as we go along. Okay, so the first thing I want to look at is admins and users. We have our cloud user that's here, and this is what it have access to at this moment in time. This cloud user is great, but if this device isn't connected to the internet, or we lock ourselves out of our unifi.ui.com, we can't get back into this unit. So what I like to do is I like to create a local admin user now. Or create, it's a little bit fussy there. There we go. Create new user over here. So we're going to choose this person to be an admin, and we're just going to restrict it to local access. When we do this, the whole bit up here of email addresses and everything becomes irrelevant. So we're just going to maybe create a user here called TTG. And you can set again this password of whatever you want this password to be. There we go. Let's see whether it will allow me. Here we go. All right. So we've now set a local password. Oh, I do have to put this back over on this side here. And we've now got add a first name. So the Tech Geeks. So this is, if you like, is our safety blanket, is our backup user, our user that is local to this. So this is what I would prefer to do, have this set. And then I know that I can get back into the system. I know that there are super admin to this, and now has full control over this. We can transfer the owner if we want to be this one here as another option, if that's what we wanted to do. But really, this super admin can do whatever we want, or you can choose this option to transfer, and we can change this over to a specific user if you set this up for somebody else, and then one pass this on to them to manage. So that was my first thing I wanted to do in the users. Now we're just going to run through settings and just change things that I like. So this whole video just is a complete walkthrough from beginning to end. So please do hop around for stuff that's not relevant for you and is, you don't need to know. I like putting this onto 24 hours, Celsius, Spotlight, smart detection. We want to turn this on if you're going to have some AI cameras on here. We'll leave it on auto. Want to check to firmware. We haven't got any audio files at this point. I'm not doing geofencing, and we can do third-party cameras if you're going to do OnViv style cameras, bridge devices. So this is really, for this one here, is all that I need to have set up. It's just a little bit of a tidy up. Then on storage, this is going to show us the hard drive that's in here. Like as you saw me at the beginning, I added a 6 terabyte hard drive in. It's only a single hard drive. We can go in a minute manage this in the control plane. So it's fully operational. We've used 17 gig, not quite sure where the 17 gig has gone at this moment in time, but we might decide to do a reformat. So let me reformat that. And that will just tidy that up. Maybe there was already some data on there. Remember, this isn't any of the config settings or anything. This is literally the footage and everything else that you want to be putting on there. So let's just go back while that's doing that, so that we know that we're in the right place. You can see that we've got varying options as we go through these sections on here, which can sometimes get ourselves, by the looks of it, a little bit lost. So I'm just going to go back a little bit, because I wanted to just see what we had, where we had our dashboard icon on here, which does seem to have slightly disappeared at this stage. The dashboard is just there. So by the looks of it, it's probably because we've just told this to go and do some updates, is why it is just moaning at us very slightly, and it wants this to be updated. So let's just carry on through our control plane, which you've got to do through from settings. We can see this is up to date. We want to get Protect running and up to date. So let's get that started to be installed. If we're going to use Unifi Access later on, which I will, I've told that to get that installing. So our integrations, again, possibly something you may use, not going to cover this here. Your backups, so your backups are useful, and they're going to be stored, and as you get some backups in here, you do want to probably be able to download those as well. Your storage, obviously, are in the process of fixing itself up, and our console, we've gone through some of the settings previously, but let's have a little bit of a tidy up. Where's your time zone? So I'm actually a time zone in Brisbane. Remember that little LCD screen? It turns itself off during these periods of time. So some people suddenly think that their device isn't working just because the screen's going off. So just be aware that that's in here. We're going to use Ubiquiti's mail server to be able to send us alerts. And again, most of these bits and pieces here, we don't need to worry about at this stage. So let's just apply those settings. Push notifications. Hang on a minute. Obviously, I just finished saving those settings. Push notifications. Again, what do we want? And so the user that's logged in, if you've got the app on your phone, that user will be sent these. If you want to maybe have an email sent to you if there's a drive failure, then what we just do is highlight those ones here, and that will then send us those pieces of information as well. I have a suspicion that some of this is potentially lost because I'm reformatting the hard drive. So we'll probably let this finish off installing and updating. And then we'll come back through and go through some of the other settings to get this nice and tidy. Okay, so it just took a few minutes to finish doing that update, which we're doing on the control plane. Once that control plane was updated, let me just take you there. So settings down here in control plane. Then Unifi Protect was up and running again. It's now off installing Access. Inner Space is sort of a mapping tool. So again, backups and our storage is as it needs to be here. Again, looks like the 17 gig of data is used to set up this, and that's probably why when I reformatted this, I lost some of the menus down that left-hand side. So again, we've got all of this set up. We've gone through our general options, which we were comfortable at, which it seems to have lost. So I'll literally just quickly go back and do that, which is interesting. Maybe that's as a result of reformatting the hard drive, or potentially just because I had run the Protect update. So let's just have a double check there. I'm just going to have a look through the control plane quickly, have a look at our integrations, a little bit more information there in integrations. The backups are as they should be, storage, console. Our settings were all saved in there, and our push notifications were as they needed to be. Identity is something that you may be able to set up if you're using Unifi Access later on. And we'll cover some of that when we get to that part in the video. So those really are the key starting features. So we've obviously created our user in here, given it admin rights, and then we've got all of this system updated and ready to go. The next stage really in this is probably to add our first camera and look at then some of the settings, and then we can build on what we're going to do from there. Okay, so let's just get our first camera connected to this. Obviously, you're just going to need a spare PoE port. Let's just quickly talk about this. This device has got 6 PoE ports. They're not PoE plus, they're PoE, but that means it gives up to 15 watts of power. I think you've got a total power wattage of about 40 watts across here, which gives you enough of what you need to be able to run a number of cameras. A G5 bullet, for instance, only uses about 5 or 6 watts. We're going to plug in a G6 bullet. We'll use a little bit more power. But again, we've still got plenty across those. So we're just going to plug the camera in and let it start up. Let's get ready now to add in our first camera. This is just the head there of a G6 Bullet. It's an AI-enabled 4K camera. So we're just going to now PoE power that. So let's just get that connected up and we can then start to adopt that into this system. Okay, so again, we are going to be taking a cable that we have here. Let me just grab this cable from the bench if we can over here. Here we go. All right, so again, remember these are our PoE ports and they're going to actually power the camera. If you're not sure what PoE does, so PoE mixes our power with our data. And out of this one cable, we are delivered power and data together, enough generally in these instances 48 volts, and we're probably going to have about 5 or 6 watts of power being drawn to us. And that can be cable, we often get asked, that can be up to 100 meters in length. So let's just plug that in for our camera here. And we'll probably see in a moment some lights. There we go, we can start to see the lights come on here to say there's a connection as the unit itself starts to boot up. So let's again just jump back onto the computer and start some of the configuration to get this camera adopted and added to this setup. Now obviously this device actually has, like I said, a 6-port switch. At the moment, if we were using Unifi Network, we'd be able to see in, maybe have some port manager controls over that. So we're going to see in due course whether we get some of that control. But our first thing we can go to here would be devices. What we're hoping in due course is that the device that we've just powered up will become available here to adopt. So we're looking for it to get an IP address from the device and then allow us to adopt it. So let's just see what happens in due course, because I would hope that the camera would actually appear in here. We just need to give it a couple of moments to start up. There we go. We can see up here that our G6 Bullet has been detected. I was sort of expecting it to appear here to be able to be adopted. So we just had to give it just a couple of moments, and you can now see, so under devices here on the left-hand side, you can now see our Bullet has appeared ready to be adopted. Now remember, we obviously do have limitations. I think it's 15 HD cameras, 8 2K cameras, and 6 4K cameras. This is a 4K camera. So I'm just going to click adopt on this. What does this do? This now basically assigns the device, I'll accept that in a minute, assigns the device to the system and pushes any firmware updates that it needs to it. Because this is an AI-based camera, it's wanting to know, do I want to enable smart detections? And we'll cover some of this in the moment, but I do want to turn that on at this moment in time. So we're going to let this go through and adopt, which is what we need to do at this start. We're just going to come back to settings though, just momentarily. I just want to check a couple of options in here because we used to have some options in one of the other interfaces to turn on. Oh yeah, we've already turned it on. So our AI events here, this button tick box often didn't used to get ticked and people wondered why you couldn't get license plate recognition. So this is now turned on along with our smart detection. So what's our main difference here with what we can do previously? If you've got G5s or G4 cameras, they're going to be able to tell you about if it was a person or a vehicle. Now what happens with AI is we can tell you that's a person with glasses on, with a red jumper, brown trousers. We can actually ident a little bit more information, and then obviously we can read number plates with AI-enabled cameras. So we're just going to give this a couple of moments. It's now just finishing on the update and it's going to be through in a moment. You can see I'm already getting a very basic picture from it. And then we'll just talk through some of the settings that you can actually get and manage with this device. So I've just highlighted this device in the view here. And you can actually see what's happening. You can see that this is actually continuing to update. So we're just going to let this continue through to its update. If it's been a while, this camera has actually been on the shelf. It's a demo unit for a little while. So there's been a few version updates since it's been used. There we go. That camera's actually come through and is now updated. So this is now our normal view of devices and what we actually can do and see with those. So we use this menu really to be able to just do some specific settings about a camera. So if I just move my imagery over here. So every camera that you add or want to make changes to, you're going to come back to devices here. And this is going to be able to manage some of the options that we see in it. So we're obviously going to see, it's wanting to push another update, which we'll probably go through in a minute. We can see some of when it did some last notifications, and we'll talk about Alarm Manager a bit later on in the video. The key things that we do with this is we want to decide how we record. And so this is one of the key features that we have with anything that we do with CCTV. This is not just a Ubiquiti thing. Do we want to just record when there are events that happen, or do we want to record footage all of the time? And that's going to really depend on the environment that you're in. If you're in, for instance, a workplace, and this is for workplace health and safety, then you're probably going to want to have continuous recording. 24 hours a day, you want it to be recording what's actually going on. We'll just let this camera update itself while I'm talking. If you are maybe at a home environment, maybe you only want to be alerted when an action happens. A vehicle is detected, somebody is noticed on the cameras, or motion is detected. All of these change how much hard drive space that we need, how much of that storage we put. We put a 6 terabyte hard drive in, which is probably good for maybe 4 or 5, maybe 4 HD cameras, let's say 4 4K cameras, 24-hour recording is probably continuously. It's probably going to give you about a month of footage. Obviously, if you put more cameras, then you're going to need more storage. If you're going to start just doing motion or event detection, then the significant difference with that is that we are going to maybe only be recording for 2 hours or 3 hours in a day instead of the whole time. So you do want to bear that in mind when you're thinking about the policies that you want to set up for how you're going to record events or continuous recording. And that's going to really, again, depend on the environment that you're in. So the camera's updated again now. So we can see, here's our options that we've got. When to record, always, schedule, so you can set it only in certain times or never. So you're going to generally want this to be always recording. This does not mean continuous recording. This just means when it is available to be monitoring for the recording. The recording mode is what we're interested in. Recording mode is continuous. Like we said, this is going to be full footage all of the time. That is going to have a hit on your storage and the performance of your device. Imagine if you've got 15 HD cameras set to this and they're all sending data at the same time. That hard drive is going to be pretty busy. Events only. So again, events only is going to allow us just to define which options we want to record on, which we'll have a look at there in a moment. And the camera is going to update itself yet again. And so let's just wait for a moment until that's finished updating. And then we can hopefully come back to these settings again. Like I said, there's been quite a few firmware updates. This is going to keep going till it has completely brought this up to date. All right, so now that's done another update, let's carry on from where we are. So we've got continuous, which is cameras recording all of the time. If you want to actually have a look at here, you can actually see this camera at the moment is sending 16 megasecond. So if you can imagine, we've got 6 cameras doing that. We've got almost sort of 80 or so megabits a second of traffic. That's all having to be written to the hard drive. So continuous may work in your scenario. Most people will go to events. Adaptive is one of relatively new features in here. So it looks like quite a good option to get somewhere between the two of them, which means low quality footage when there's no motion detected, but you at least have footage to go back to, and then switches to high when there's motion. So this is probably something I would recommend that you choose if you've got enough storage for it, or just go to events based. So I'm going to choose adaptive on here. Record AI events. So these are really all of the ones that are available to you. So this is what it's going to actually do as a recognize. You can do a little bit of editing, which we've done, to choose which ones are in here. And then audio detections. Do you want for it to be able to notify you or at least indicate recording happened with some of these that are going on? And this is probably one of the key ones that I like to work on. This is about how much time do you want before the event and after the event. And this is quite significant. So let's put a very basic scenario here. You've got a camera pointing at a fence. When somebody pops their head up over the fence and then pops it straight back down again, the camera will have detected that there was motion. But if we record from the instant that we saw motion, the likelihood is that person's head has dipped back down below the fence before the video has totally got going. By extending how much time we keep before, we will have actually had the whole action happening. So I like to try and extend this out for me to the maximum you can have. So I want 10 seconds of recording before, and I want 10 seconds after. You can adjust this again based on the storage that you want, but that's up to you. So record motion events, that's what we want to do. So again, what needs to happen to trigger these detections up here, or these motions? How many seconds? Now this might be relevant if you've got a camera pointing out down your front driveway, and maybe you've got a tree there, and the leaves or the branches are moving quite a lot. That will keep triggering recording. So you probably want to adjust these settings to help you not be induced with too much motion where it doesn't fit. Obviously, if you just want to hit some of these, then they shouldn't be affected by it. But if we're just doing any type of motion, then this can also happen with shadows. So you want to do a little bit of work around getting that how you might want it to be. Overlay information, I like to have the camera name, which we can name, I'll show you that in a minute, and the time. I'm not really bothered about the bit rate, and where do you want it actually in that picture frame. So we're just going to hit save on there. We'll come to the zones here in a moment. But the thing that probably, let's just go through our basic settings. So maybe we're just going to call this bench, because that's all it is. My microphone sensitivity, obviously it'll depend on the camera you've got to whether you've got speakers or microphones. Do I want to disable when recording? That might be a requirement in the area that you are in. Do we want to adjust? The HDR allows us to adjust some of the compromises, and maybe this is if you've got a camera that's pointing out and it's under the eaves, and then it's in a slightly darker area, but it's pointing out to a brighter area. This will allow you to compromise between what gives you the best balance to give the image the best quality that you want. Your night vision, generally most people will leave that on auto. They're the red LEDs you see around the outside of the camera itself, and will help give you that sort of grey blue image at nighttime. Advanced settings, again, will depend on where you've got the camera pointing, but allows you to get the best balance out of this. And so once you've put it in a final place, you might want to just work through these, so you're going to get a best compromise between the brightness and contrast for the whole day and the direction that camera's pointing. Obviously our hertz here, this is if maybe you've got this inside and you've got maybe fluorescent tubes or internal lights, that's going to help you get away from some of the flicker. The orientation, we've got options here to flick this around so you can meet. Hallway mode is quite good. This allows you to take a camera and rotate it by 90 degrees to get you slightly more of a vertical image. Again, if you've had to mount it at a slightly weird angle, you can flip the image around and you can add some tags to it there. Live stream, we're not going to cover the ability to turn on basically your RTSP stream and be able to pull data directly from it. And then you've got your recovery, restart and remove if you want to remove this from the device. So you can set up, so you can now see I've renamed this to bench. And if I was just to hop over to basically look at my recordings, I will be able to see once it's updated in here. Well, this camera's actually got a little bit of a zoom function going on here. My overlay should be showing, I think when I actually look back through some of my playback, it's very interesting that my overlay actually isn't on here. But we'll maybe just double check that that's maybe just taking a moment to update. Let's just go back and have a little look again where I'd set the overlay up for that. Advanced settings, where had we set the overlay in here? Not totally sure, maybe we had set that in our recording settings. There we go, we put our overlay settings. We'd have to look back once we've got that done to be sure what's going on. Then our last little bit in here, and you can do this globally. So there is a set of globals and then you can assign this to all of the cameras. So everything that I've done here between this recording settings and zones and lines could be done. Well, zones and lines is slightly different, but the main recording, this can be a global policy you can apply to all cameras. Motion zones, again, very simple. Maybe we've only got certain areas that we want to know. Maybe there's just a door that's in a specific area, and so we don't want to know anything else that happens around it. We can use this to create our different zones in here and highlight where we want to actually record what's actually going on, and again change our sensitivity around it. Our custom zones, we can discard that settings here a minute, there we go. Our custom smart zones, again, similar type of idea. What are we looking for in those zones? So maybe in a driveway, you're only going to highlight out portion of the driveway because that's all that you actually want to tick out. I think you can potentially have extra zones. You can have multiple zones in the same area. So you could have your driveway highlighted for maybe a person and a vehicle, but you could have another section highlighted in a different area for animals or somebody hanging around near a gate. So it gives you some great options to be able to build up your different zones in there. We've then got things for line crossing. So again, maybe this was outside looking at a garden area and you want to designate an area. So if an object passes, and it gives you that direction, passes from A to B, so I've moved from here to here, here to here, then it's going to alert me. And what type of alerting do I want to actually happen? I can, again, only in one direction or bi-directional. So some great options that are in there. And then we've got this other option in here, which is our privacy blockouts. Maybe you've got this that's pointing down, but you catch part of the neighbor's garden. Again, we can say that in this certain area of the screen, we don't want recording to happen. And so when we look at the playback, that portion of the image is hidden away and obviously keeps it as a privacy. Maybe in a slightly more public area and you're looking at a swimming pool or something, but you can't have imagery from the swimming pool, then again, you could block that out. So those are the key things that can be done per camera, fairly fast run through, but I wanted just to show you where most of those features are. We can look at some of the playback and that a little bit later on, but I wanted to just show you what was there for the camera, and we can do the same from this devices and have a look at some of the settings on our actual Instant as well. It will show us here we're hardly using any power at the moment. Connected ports, we can show that at the moment this is not really bringing us any extra information, which is interesting. Hopefully that will do in due course. What's our CPU going like over here? And we've got our basic options. This is going to be our viewport, which we'll have a little look at a little bit later on. And I think we can manage most of this again in the control plane, which we have already set up at this moment in time. So that gives the start of actually adding a camera. We're going to go through some of the playback options that you can see in a moment, and then we'll start adding some other bits and pieces to this, answer a few more questions that people might have around how do we control this. But hopefully that's a good start of how we've added in a camera and some of the main features you're going to see currently in this firmware. Like I said, this is recording in October 2025. Okay, so we have left this running for a couple of days just so we've got a little bit of footage and stuff that we can explore back around. But during that time, it's actually done an update. Obviously, like I said, when I'm recording this in October 2025, this device has only been out a few weeks, so the firmware is currently evolving fairly quickly. You would have remembered when I first set this up, it wasn't actually giving out any PoE usage reading. I couldn't see what was happening in the PoE ports. But if we now go to devices over here, choose our UNVR-Instant, this is now actually showing us the ports that are here. It's showing us our wattage, and it's building up a list of devices that it knows about on here. Now, let's have a little look at what we actually get to see, there's something fairly useful. Obviously, this says FE, fast Ethernet, that means 100 meg a second. That's the first thing that people jump on and go, oh, my camera, these are 1 gig ports, why are they only running at 100 meg? Well, even the G6 cameras have only got a 100 meg Ethernet port. Why is that? Very simple. Even running in 4K, we're only going to probably give a maximum of 20 or 30 megabits a second. So we don't need anything faster than a 100 meg port to be able to deliver that. So that's why we see fast Ethernet. We can see I've got a 1 gig uplink though, which is great. If I choose manage on any of the ports, I have the option to turn the port off, physically disable it. If I do that on a PoE port over here, then I have the option here to disable the port or turn off PoE. Remember, you can plug non-PoE devices into a PoE switch, and they won't draw power unless they need power. But often I like to do it if the device permanently doesn't need power, maybe it's a computer or something like that, then I do like to turn off the PoE, just it makes it simpler in my mind. We also then have an option here to be able to power cycle. So for instance, we can just hover over here and choose power cycle. That's going to turn the power off for that port and back on again. Probably might take this camera offline in a moment and pop it back on. Great if you need to do a reboot or remote reboot if something's frozen along the line. So it's great to have seen some improvements here already, and they will be more and more coming soon. So what I want to just show you now is a little bit of what you get in Find Everything, and then we'll come and have a look at the viewport side of things and go from there. So let's just hop on first, because earlier in the video we made some detailed changes on this camera here, just to label up I think it was in the settings here. Where did we do it? Maybe it was over here. We chose over here the overlays, camera time and camera name. And so I just want to show you that now as we add cameras, they appear here on our dashboard. The more cameras we have, the more that will actually show in here. And we can choose the layout of the cameras that we actually want as well. But now we can see the time, the date, and the name that we've assigned this camera. Obviously not looking at anything particularly exciting at this moment in time. So now let's head over to Find Anything. So Find Anything will depend on what you see on here, will again depend on the cameras that you've got. If you've got AI enabled cameras, then you will already have AI enabled events in here. You will have basic detection if you don't for like a person or vehicle, depending again what this is looking at. And if you add in an AI key or something like along those lines, then again, this information will become more improved. You can search for anything depending on which versions you have. You can free text search up here as you go along, depending again on the add-ons that you have. But out of the box, this is the type of thing that you're going to get. So we can basically see people here or vehicles. We can choose that and this will reselect these. You will then see these different icons on here. So you can see because I've got an AI camera, it's noting that it's hearing sound on this. We've also got, for instance, like down here, we've got a face. So I can actually choose on here and I can choose create new. And this now allows me to join this person up. I can obviously add them onto a watch list there and I can give them a name. So let me just give that a name. Now I can start, as you can see, start using this option to search. And so now when I come back here, so if I've gone to the dashboard, for instance, and I come back here, I will have options as I start to come through here now and filter for people, that I can then start to search for just faces of Paul. So if I find another image, I can come back and I can view similar and tell it to go back through and find all of those. And I can build up regular lists in here. So this is what you would actually start to see as you start to see things go on the camera. We can do this with license plate recognition. And remember, this is if you've got AI enabled cameras. The other ones are going to be showing you motion. So you're going to be seeing motion, like we said. So let's have a look, what's happened over the last week. Let's just remove my search here. And then it's going to come back and show me all these different things that have come through. So I could maybe choose a different face or a different of somebody along these lines and actually choose it. And that would then again reassociate the information with them. So we can start to now use this not to only just look for people, number plates, vehicles, sound, but this is our find everything. This is where we can search through all of this. We have options then really to start making things like cases from it, and a case is managed in here, so you can start to create footage together. So if there was an incident, you can now start to tag some of these pieces of footage. You can come back and tag these and add these to your case manager. So you've now got a collection from different cameras if you want to of how it all works. We can download this to save it. We can do some updates on there. We can probably go back and actually see, there we go, where this is in time and know what was actually happening. Remember, I've got this on adaptive at the moment, which means that the quality is fairly low until the action actually happens. And then once the action actually happens, then it will pick up into higher quality at the footage. So you can see that I walked up to the bench and made some changes there to the printer that was actually on there. But we have all of those options to take snapshots from it. Like we said here, the option then to add it to a case or to just flag it so that we can find it more easily at another stage. So that's really what we use Find Everything for. We then got playback. Playback is where we're going to see all of our cameras. We can see it in a timeline, so we'll be able to choose our cameras. I've only got one camera on here. We can choose our cameras. We can change the quality. I've changed this to be high quality all of the time. But we can then use this slider. The slider allows us to revolve back. So we should have footage that's happening. There we go. We've got footage, as you can see, that's happening in low quality because I've got this in adaptive mode. If I bring this just up to about wherever the event started happening, remember I've got several seconds before the event I'm set to record. So I'm hoping just in a moment as this travels through, we'll start to lose some of this pixelation once this action starts to happen. I don't know what the action was. I'm presuming it was probably me or somebody walking in front of the camera, but let's just have a little look and see what happens in this moment in time. If maybe somebody does walk in front of this, doesn't look like probably is a good example. Oh, there we go. We've got something happening just up here. Can you see that? The action is now, we have improved our pixelation because we're now actually starting to come into an action of something happening in this area. And so it's immediately brought the quality up. So we've always got that low quality, and then when the action actually happens, whatever it was that happens, it might have been the blind here, I think maybe actually moved. Let's just have a little look. We can see over on this side, yeah. So nothing particularly exciting happened other than I think it detected the blind moved in that point in time. But we can scroll back through here and find our different timelines, try and find some actions that maybe happened. You can do this again. You know, this was when the cameras were off because I turned the power off, and then back on again there when we plugged it back in before I started this recording. So we will see all of our other cameras along the bottom, and we can then use this to give our playback. So again, a fairly useful feature of all of this. And there's lots that obviously can be done with this. Like we said, the case, start to be able to see if we're finding face and everything else from there, so that we can start to find these a little bit more and get a little bit more action of what's actually happening. In your case manager here, this is where you can add your different cameras together that I was talking about and collect together a piece of information. Maybe you need to give this to the police, maybe give it a manager or something like that you're monitoring that information from. So that sort of gives you a rough idea of what we're actually looking at now when we've got some footage in there and some basics. And there's a lot more involved in there, a lot more you can do, but hopefully it gives you an idea of some of the way around it. So now I'd like to give you just a little bit of a talk through of the HDMI output of this device. It is an HDMI out, but it's something called a Viewport. A Viewport is a device on its own that was actually a standalone product that Ubiquiti have that allows you to plug it into an HDMI monitor and be able to control the cameras that you have and the layout of it. So realistically, what we can do is we can create a layout that we want, and we can then plug a monitor into it. I'm not going to show you a monitor because it's going to be exactly the same as what I've designed here. But in the back of the UNVR-Instant is an HDMI output, of which we can just plug our HDMI cable into. And if we use the designer that I'm just going to show you now, then we can create up different screens. If different users who log in, we're using the app, can use different layouts. And you can add other physical viewports to this as well if you want to. So if we just come back here to the dashboard, is probably one of the easiest places to get to. I think from memory we saw that if we went on to here and the device, and we could go over here and do a new multi-view display or a new multi-view layout, which is what it is. I like just doing it from dashboard, it's probably easier. So if we bring our mouse in this area, we can see that we've got options here. So I could make this full screen if I wanted to. This is just on the computer that I'm working on. But when we have this option down here now to add a multi-view. What is a multi-view? It's going to allow us to create a format. Now at the moment this is just in a 4-camera, but we could have this maybe if we wanted to in a 2-camera layout. Obviously if you had 6 cameras, you can have more cameras on here, obviously than the unit is capable of. But that's sort of the idea potentially of a viewport and how it can sort of actually work. So let's choose like this 4-camera layout. We'll see all of our cameras that are laid out there, and maybe we just want that one in that corner. You do have the option, if you've got more cameras than you want to display on here, you can add 2 to a section and it will cycle through those at a predetermined time, which can be really useful as well. We now have the option if we want to share this grid. So what we want to do is we want to share this grid now, and that will make it shareable for other users. So if other users are going to come in, they can use that predefined layout. So we've got the option, as you can see in here, I can choose the pre-shared layout of just the 1 camera or all cameras, or I can choose this multi-view. I can name that obviously whatever I want to. and that maybe makes it a little bit easier to be found. I'm pretty sure now if we come back to devices here and have a little look on here, it looks like, there we go. So at the moment it's just displaying the default one. So if we were to plug in the HDMI cable, we are going to get what is classed as the default. So it's just going to be the all camera view. Let's just rename this so maybe this is a little bit clearer. Oops, edit grid. So let's just see, we should be able to name this. So I'm going to name this where I've got this plugged in, but I could obviously set up different setups, and I could spread those around the property if I was to get other physical viewports, or you were going to use other devices logged in to use this. You only got one on this device. So if we now go to have a look at our device, what I can now do is I can tell it on the HDMI port that I want to use the lounge output. And that means that what's going to be displayed on the physical HDMI output onto the monitor I've plugged it into is this layout. And if I then edit it, that's going to change what is on there as well, which is actually really quite a neat way of making this all work. So yes, it's got a full HDMI output. It will just default all the cameras as standard, or again, you can use this little designer to customize the look and feel of how you want that to be laid out. And obviously, like I said, if you've got more cameras than the display you want, maybe you only want to have 2 windows shown but cycle everything through, then that's a way of making that work as well. Obviously then, while looking at this screen, this is really useful. The dashboard, as we start to see up, we can see how much physical hard drive space we've used, how many cameras are connected, how far ago was the most recent recording, and we can see our camera capacity going on here. So we'll know what's, as we start to reach our limits. We've got options also to archive this off to several cloud-based services, which you can do. And you can create spotlights. So spotlights might be looking for specific people or actions to happen. So my spotlight here is I want to essentially have a spotlight. It's going to appear on our dashboard here when it actually is or happens. So let's put this spot pull. So it's sort of like a highlighting space in your dashboard. We've started tracking that matches your spotlight. Tap to view detections. So we've now got something that's just very simple and easy. I've got simple ways to get to all of these detections. So it's really useful. Every time my face has been seen, there you go, walking through the door, it is now here as a spotlight. Obviously you could do that with line crossings. There's quite a lot of things that this could be done with and managed and created for. And it's quite a good way of just being able to quickly, simply find things. So like here we've got a known an activity, which camera do you want to actually have it on, and alert me if an activity was happening on there. Obviously some of this just depends on the cameras and the features that you've got enabled to what you can actually highlight with Spotlight. But it's a good starting place to be able to build on alerting and management and visibility. Okay, so there's lots of other things we can do with this now. We've got one camera in there. Maybe we want to add a siren and use Alarm Manager. So let's just show you about how that would work. So again, I'm hopping down onto here. We're going to plug in PoE. This is a siren over here. This is 110 decibel siren. This is what we're going to plug in. So again, this is waterproof. So let me just take off the connector at the back because we're only just setting this up on the desk here. And again, let's plug that in. And we can see again in a moment the lights starting up. Look, we can see all the way across here the lights as it starts to boot and properly is connected. Okay, so another area to cover inside Unifi Protect is our Alarm Manager. Now we've got some stuff actually happening on here. We can do things with this. So Alarm Manager is based down here. An Alarm Manager is where we can generate alerts, emails, other actions, and this is starting to develop and has been developing really well, but we can build this into different things. If we've added in a siren, for instance, then from there we can actually add in further alerts and alarms to what we want to make that siren active for. So there's a whole bunch of ones already predefined in here, but let's just have a look. We can go really simply, create an alarm. Maybe we want to, let's have a look. Can we ID somebody, a known face or a specific face? I'm going to do it if I know Paul. We're going to monitor it all of the time. Which cameras do we want it to appear on? So again, we maybe only want to appear on a specific camera. And we can choose that. And then what do we actually want it to do? In this instance, maybe we want to alert all admins, something like Paul is back on site. Maybe you're trying to monitor for somebody that shouldn't be around. Now, I'm pretty sure the apply is probably down. No, it's not. That should be all of the things that we need to make this function. So I was just wondering why it wouldn't allow me to save. If I've got this cut on custom for this one, I just need to make sure I put something on here. Paul is back on site, which is what we'd had a look at. There we go. Just didn't like me filling that in properly last time. So I can now choose create alert on Paul. So maybe we've got somebody on site, like I said, or around and about, and we want to know if they come in front of a specific camera. So now I can actually set that, and up on my screen on my mobile phone, if I've logged into the Unifi Protect app as one of the users that has access to this, or it could have had multiple users and just assign it to one, then I'm actually going to get this notification. Maybe I'm even going to send an email to all admins to alert them on the screen when Paul comes onto one of those cameras. So this starts to become quite useful, especially if we're doing with license plate recognition. We've done this with DHL delivery vans, all those type of things. So we get alerts when trucks come past that should be delivering, or maybe they've said they have or they haven't. We can easily find that information or be alerted when it's actually happening. So this is what the alarms allow us to do. Like I said, it will depend on the cameras that we've got and what we've got connected. If we've got an AI horn or a UP-Siren, then would allow us to do the sound side on here. We can look for specific activity. If you've set up line crossing or people hanging around, we can do it with those as well. Or set up system alerts for hard drives and updates and those bits and pieces. And again, if you had an AI key, you would have some more options and sensors here if you have a super link included. So there's some really exciting pieces that you can do to create systems that work together. And now you can use this, even this alarm manager, when you have Unifi Access in place to start unlocking doors when certain things happen. So it can be a great feature to explore a little bit further, and hopefully that gives you an idea of the start of things that you could maybe do with inside Alarm Manager. So really that's the basics now of getting our UNVR-Instant running with Unifi Protect. But what if we maybe want to do Unifi Access, so the door access system as well? So let's just walk you through some simple parts of that. Okay, so we've had a good look around Unifi Protect, what it can do, the basics that are there. We had a look around Alarm Manager. We may come back to some of those little bits towards the end of the video, but we're now going to have a look at Unifi Access. That's the other application that the UNVR-Instant can run. This is the door control system. Gives you a bit option to be able to have intercom and those type of things on your front doors, and have two-way communication with your visitors, and to be able to automate some of your doors as well. So there are some components, there are some things that you're going to need to know about this. But first, let's just go and have a look in Unifi Access. You will need to have enabled the app if it's not already enabled for you. So you can come down to here. Okay, it's going to start me here anyway. But down in settings and control panel or control pane, we would have needed to set that to install. It may be installed automatically. Now, once it has actually installed, here's a key thing. You will need a door hub. So this is actual hub item. You need this to control each door you're going to uniquely manage. You're going to need a reader and you're going to need a lock. Those are the three components that you are going to need. So let me just show you these being just connected up here over on the workbench. So the first thing that we know when we're using Unifi Access is that we need to have a door hub for each door that we want to control. So we're just going to use this. This is a hub door mini. No, yes, a hub door mini. There we go. All right, so it's got a couple of PoE ports out. It's PoE powered. This can't probably be PoE powered by the device here itself, by the UNVR-Instant, because it needs a little bit more power than it can give out. So we're going to power this with a PoE injector. And then cable that all the way through. You then want something like a reader. This is a G3 Reader Pro or the G3 Intercom to make all of this work with your electronic door lock. We've got other videos on how to set all of those pieces up, but I want to just now step you through on the screen, on the computer, how this all works. So let me just show you how these bits fit together. So looking at the device here now, it doesn't have to have come from here. If you've got a PoE switch that gives out PoE++, or a minimum PoE+, depending on which parts of Unifi Access you're using, then you could connect to that. I'm going to connect it up to this. So we're going to use our short cable from one of the spare ports on here. And this is going to first go into our in for our PoE injector. This is going to give us PoE+ power to actually power the door system. So we're going to plug that in there. We're going to plug our mains in this side, there we go, and out to our power board over there. And then we want our small cable to come from the other side. So this is our PoE out there, and that's going to come here right the way over, sort of getting a little bit messy on the desk. And that's going to come to our PoE in of our injector, or sorry, our door hub here. And then we're going to need a final cable that will run from one of these spare ports here out to our reader and to be able to then power that up. Once that's all connected, then let's jump on over to the computer and I'll show you how we configure that all together. So let's come back to the screen. You can see as I walk through, it's already found my hub and my reader and wants to go and adopt those and set those up. So let's let that run through now. It's wanting to know if I want to register an NFC. An NFC is a card that I can swipe across it. I don't have any of those at this moment in time, so I'm just going to skip that as an option. All right, and I'm not going to set up Touch Pass. That is something that is outside of the scope of this video. Touch Pass is the ability to use a smartphone or an Apple phone to actually unlock it. It sits in your wallet a bit like a credit card that you sit there, and as you bring that to the device, it will unlock it. That's another bit of a feature. I just want to show you how we can get Unifi Access installed and running and some of the basic features so you can actually again see what you could do with the UNVR-Instant. So I'm just going to choose Not Now for this. You can see these are asking me to update. Let's just go and have a look in devices. So it follows a very similar pattern that we see in Unifi Protect. So we've got our dashboard, which is what we're in at the moment. We have our devices in here, and we can see this one set for update. So let's just click that and allow that to run through as an update. And once that update, we're going to just name those. I'm going to show you some basic process to make all of this work and at least show you that the functions are there and everything can be done. And it gives you a good starting point of how everything is going to work when you're running Unifi Access here on a UNVR-Instant. Okay, so this device looks like it's failed on its update. Now this could be entirely possible because I've not delivered enough PoE power to it. Like I said, you might want to put this on a PoE injector, but for the sake of this, I'll just carry on. It'll work without this update, so it's not a problem. So I'm just going to go through and just rename these. So like I said, you need to have a hub first, a hub of some type. So I'm just going to call this front door hub. So this is the bit that everything is connected to. And then I'm going to, that's already now renamed that, the entry on there. All right, so there are a few bits of settings that you can do with inside this. So on the hub has some options. We've got other videos on more in depth how to set all of this up, but I just really want to show you the features of how you can actually do this in UNVR-Instant anyway. All right, this is the device policies, whether you want this to follow the schedule of the rest of it, that's created down in your settings. Then on your door entry itself, you can see the cameras running on here. We've got some options that you can choose. Do you want touch pass running on it? Do you want NFCs, mobile unlock? Do you want face unlock? And you can change the greetings. It just say welcome and welcome first name. Because this is a full door entry system that will be connected with your users. So I've just labeled those up so it's a little bit easier for me to manage what's there. And then we have a look in Interface Designer. Interface Designer is, again, you can upload images onto this. You can change how the look of it. there is like I said, this is in October 2025. There is a more doorbell-centric model coming later in the year. At this moment in time, you have to either pull this up or you need to have hold that in for a while. And some people don't realize that. So I often like to change the note in here. So if I long push to ring or something like that. And then you can put this on hold to call. And then people really maybe know what they do, but you can set that up as you want. Then in here in receivers, this is what you choose. What do you want to actually happen when they push the button? So maybe you have got a intercom. Sorry, you've got a chime or something like that. You can choose that in here. If I choose my Unifi user here, if I'm logged in anywhere using the Unifi Access app or Unifi Protect, I'm going to actually get an alert that somebody has pushed the doorbell, and I can then actually talk to them and I can actually unlock it from the app as well. Not really part of this whole video. I just wanted to show you the basics of this. So I'm going to leave this as a push and alert here when the person does that. It's automatically already saved those settings. There isn't anything I need to do on that. So this really is me created. I've got my hub and I've got my door entry. I can then, if I want to, and this is where some of the integration comes, which is really great. If I go back into Unifi Protect, in Unifi Protect now, I can actually see my door hub reader, so my Reader Pro as a camera, and I can now actually choose what do I actually want to happen with this. In the newer firmware, there are some new settings, which is why it's probably uncomfortable and not giving me some options. You can do some of your different types of reading in there for motion and everything, and certainly if you have an AI key, you can connect that in as well. I can change all of my options here, just like I can on the cameras, and I can now see this as a normal door camera. And if I wanted to, I think I can do this. If I want to edit my grid, yes, I can now bring my camera in there as well for what I need. So that shows you how we can now integrate Access with this and use those two together. Let me just pop back over to Access here. And let me just show you the very basic feature. I've got this option here, unlock the door. And let me just show you, you should be able to see there on the screen, when I click the unlock the door, you can see it also, you wouldn't probably be able to hear it, but it said welcome, but it actually made the door strike unlock, which would obviously allow you to walk in. Now, if I just do show you down here in our system manager here is telling us we really need PoE++, and I think that's probably why my device is not updated properly. But now if we revisit Alarm Manager that we did before, and remember we could create those alarms, we're now in Unifi Access, and we can create alarms in a similar way. But now what I want to do is an alarm if the door is open, an alarm if the door is unlocked. Maybe we want to do some stuff and we can link cameras together with what's happening. So what do I actually want to happen with when the doorbell is rung? What do I want to happen with the user that's going on here? I've got my actions over here. Who do I want to actually alert? And I can choose what's going to actually happen on this door hub. So it builds some level of features in here. If we were to now go over to our Unifi Protect side of things, and again, use Alarm Manager over in Unifi Protect, we should find that we actually have some extra features in here that we can again create alarms that give us a little bit more of the feature set of being able to integrate. Oh, it looks like, sorry, it's not gone over to Unifi Protect. Let's just give this a moment to load Unifi Protect. No, it's not gone over to Unifi Protect. Interesting. There we go. Now we're in Unifi Protect. So let's go back to our Alarm Manager here again, and we can create an alarm in here, but we can now actually do some things with a known face, and we can now say which camera maybe we want to see that to be on, and now we can go over here and what do we want to do. So if we saw a known face,
and it was seen through this camera, then we can unlock this door. So we've got great expansion of features here as we start to integrate access and protect together. And hopefully that starts to give you an idea of how those two things can actually work. But hopefully gives you an idea. What do I need to run Unifi Instant? We've talked about needing a hard drive. We have talked obviously then about setting this up, being able to access, adding a camera. We've been able to see how to see the PoE on the usage on the port. We've then enabled Unifi Access if you want to do access, added a door hub and then a door reader and a strike to go with it to show you how all of those work. We've looked at some of the features that you have then in Unifi Protect for finding anything and being able to see what's going on in those. We've looked at again your Unifi, the access of the output you can get on HDMI. So hopefully some good little features there. I'm just going to run through a few things that people have had as questions. We've done these as little sound bites as well, but that should give you an idea of what you need to run Unifi Instant and enough to get you UNVR-Instant, enough to get you going. These few are just a few questions that people have asked, and it's probably worthwhile just running through these as questions. Okay, so some of those one-off questions that we have had, obviously, can you integrate Unifi Access and Unifi Protect together? Yes, you can. So on a screen like this is updating, I think, at the moment, but you can see our door entry hub would be streamed and connected on there. So fully working. I probably haven't given this enough PoE power. So that would be the other question. Can you run a hub directly off the switch? Yes, you can. You could see what I did earlier and actually have this running with a Hub Mini and this is a G3 Reader Pro. It is moaning down here, so I wouldn't be totally happy. It is using a certain amount of power, but because we've got that limitation of 15 watts, I would probably suggest use a PoE injector. So that's probably one of those questions that we have get asked quite a lot. Another one that we get asked is what can we see in the power usage and ports that can be seen on the UNVR-Instant. So if we have a look over here, we can see the port speeds, we can see our total power consumption and the connected devices. So really simple and easy to see that. Another question we've got asked is, can I power a access point from this? Yes, the UNVR, it is a straight switch. Remember, this is just a PoE switch. It's not a PoE plus. So you do need an access point that's going to be less than 15 watts in power. And you do want to remember that this is not a unified network controller. So if you do have it plugged in, yes, you're going to be able to see that is consuming power when we look in the switch side of things in Unifi Access over here. Just the same as I've got the door hub plugged in up here, but you won't be able to manage it in here. You will only be able to manage it if you have either the Unified Network software controller, or you maybe have another OS console or a UCG Ultra, for instance, as your router. So yes, you can add it, but again, you will need to have some other way to manage it.
One of the questions we do get asked is, can you run 2.5-inch drives in here, SSD and standard? I did show at the beginning of the video that you can fit them in there. Let me just open this box up. You can certainly fit them in here without any problem at all. But let's just see whether it actually is recognized as well, just for reference. So let me just remove this drive from here, which will probably a little bit easier than said than done, just showing how well secured that is in place. All right, so that has come out now. Right, so I have two options here that I showed you at the beginning of the video. This will just try first. Obviously, that's not going to be useful. This is just our standard SSD drive. We'll just power up the unit, and then we will have a look in the control panel and just see whether that has become available. You might want to probably put some padding in there just to protect that if that's what you're intending to do and run. So we'll just let that boot up and then we'll have a quick look inside.
Okay, so we've just started up the device with that SSD in it. So we can come to control plane, come to storage. We can see it as fully functional. You can see what it's identified it as a Western Digital. We can choose the option on here to reformat it if we want to, and we can clear that hard drive. So we can see in this instance, certainly SSD drive is working there fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try, once this is reformatted so I don't break everything, I'm going to try and swap that over for one of the other hard drives that I had, which is more of a conventional 2.5 inch IDE or SATA drive.
Okay, so you can see that it worked with a standard SSD drive in here. Let's just pull the power out. And let's just have a look at opening this unit up again. I'm going to swap this over for a standard. I probably wouldn't use these. These tend to be certainly slower. This is a 5400 RPM, so not as good. But let's open up the box. I'm going to leave the box upside down once I've taken this out, mainly from the reason that this needs a little bit more supporting because it's heavier. This is more just to prove that it would actually work. So let's just clip that in. You can see it can move around. I'd put something on there just to hold it a little bit more in place if I was going to. Let's just power that up and then we'll just jump back on the computer. You'll have noticed that it uses about 10 gig of storage. So you'll find when we reformat the hard drive of any of these, it reformats it and then uses about 10 gig. I presume it must transfer a load of its config files and everything, and it's set up onto this hard drive. So that's just booting, and we will have a little look now on the computer how that's actually running.
Okay, so just jump back on the computer. You can see again our storage. Although we've got 1 terabyte here, you can actually see now it's showing as a Toshiba SATA hard drive. Again, it has formatted it. It's put this 10 gig of storage we talked about already on there. We can see its spin speed here as well. So you can see that both those instances, the drives work. So hopefully that answers your question. You can use SSD in here. You can use the old-fashioned 2.5 inch SATA if you wanted to. As well as just a standard 3.5. Like I said at the beginning of the video, probably the 3.5 is going to be better for you for the size of storage that you want, and probably getting that RPMs up. Really want a 7,200 to make it worthwhile. I think those were the only few regular questions that we seem to get asked, which is about, can you see the PoE? Can I plug other devices into it? Does it operate as a network switch? Yes, it does. How does Unifi Access connect to it? So hopefully you found that useful. Do head on over to our YouTube channel. Got plenty more box openings, how-to guides, performance guides. What do I need to run videos as well. So why don't you subscribe and stay up to date?